1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policy at selectquote.com/commercials. Or price could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
You know I love AMAC. I love what they stand for. Smaller government. I love the value they pass on to their members. A fantastic endorsed partner of AMAC are my good friends at Pure Talk USA. Just like how AMAC wants to take the pork barrel out of government, Pure Talk wants to trim the fat off your wireless bill. Here's the deal. If you're an AMAC member or a new customer, you're eligible for wireless plans for as little as $10 a month. $10 a month, and Pure Talk will add 3 years to your AMAC membership for free. Stop overpaying for wireless. Make the switch to Pure Talk USA. Their network covers 99% of Americans. Their customer service is based in the U.S., and they're veteran-run. You can even keep your phone and your number. Get talk, text, and data for as little as $10 a month when you dial pound 250 and say the keyword Mike Gallagher. That's all. Dial pound 250 and say Mike Gallagher. They make it so easy to switch. Pound 250, promo code Mike Gallagher, Pure Talk USA. Simply smarter wireless.
Upwork has the largest network of independent professionals, like developers, designers, data scientists, you name it. And they're proven, rated, and reviewed. So when you need in-demand talent, on demand, Upwork is how.
7:07, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time and Jim Talamonte.
Metro is reporting that Milwaukee North Line train 2192 scheduled to leave Lake Forest at 7:48 will not operate due to an earlier mechanical failure. The northbound tri-state traffic congested around the Hinsdale Oasis, and it's stop and go farther north from the Reagan Silway to North Avenue. Inbound Eden's delays start at Pratt, 20 minutes Lake Hook to Montrose. About Kennedy, looking at about 30 minutes O'Hare to downtown. Outbound 38 with the delays beginning around Armitage. Inbound Eisenhower, 42 minutes 390 to downtown. Outbound 34. Inbound Stevenson, 50 minutes 355 to Lakeshore Drive. Ryan, 21 minutes from 95th. I-57, 20 minutes, side 8 to the merge, Bishop 418. That's traffic. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next in our 1-hour heating and air conditioning weather center. Steve Williams.
Today and tonight, cloudy skies. High today at 36, a low tonight at 29. Clouds and flurries for tomorrow, high 35. Wednesday and Thursday, cloudy. The high Wednesday 34, Thursday's high 35. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
Currently, we have 29 degrees. Next news at 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by HealthQuest Radio with Dr. David Kobaba. Every Saturday morning at 11, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. More impeachment duds being reported as bombshells over the weekend by the D.C. press corps. Let's start with Lev Parnas. This is the Giuliani confidant who's under federal indictment for campaign finance-related charges, recording a dinner meeting he was a part of back in April of 18 at the White House that included Trump, at which time Trump said this about Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch, who you'll recall testified during the House impeachment hearings. This is Trump per the back and forth on Yovanovitch.
If you take a look, the biggest problem there, I think, where you need to start is we got to get rid of the ambassador. She's still left over from the Clinton administration.
Who were the ambassador? Were Ukraine?
Yeah, and she's basically walking around telling everybody, "Wait, he's going to get impeached. Just wait." I mean,
really?
It's incredible. It's
She'll be gone tomorrow.
What's
her name?
I don't remember the name.
So one of the things that will be, now that we have a Secretary of State that's been sworn in.
Get rid of her.
Hooray. One of the first things
get her out
that
tomorrow.
will,
I don't care. Get her out tomorrow.
Oh, get rid of her. Get her out tomorrow. Oh, my God.
Oh, that's so sexist and mean. No, that's what happens. He's president. He decides who the ambassadors are. Real simple.
He can fire and nominate just like any POTUS can. By the way, Yovanovitch, during her testimony, just to recall this, since I know the House Democrat managers like to cherry pick the portions of testimony from the House side. This is Chris Stewart, a Republican from Utah, questioning Yovanovitch during her testimony.
As you see it here before us, very simply and directly, do you have any information regarding the President of the United States accepting any bribes?
No.
Do you have any information regarding any criminal activity that the President of the United States has been involved with at all?
No.
Thank you. Thank you for answering that directly.
That's a star witness, and also this on the president's rights with respect to ambassadors.
Any president has the ability to ask his ambassadors to serve at will. I'm curious, do you think that's the right policy?
Yeah, I probably think it is.
Yeah. So that's a real bombshell that Parnas presented, isn't it? This is ridiculous. In addition to that, you have the issue of withholding, putting a temporary hold on foreign aid. Is that something that you can do? Can you require specific performance in the America's interest with respect to foreign aid? Because that's what the whole Bolton bombshell is about, this book excerpt. Oh, he wanted to tie foreign aid to an investigation into Biden Inc. and Burisma. Let's assume that is true for the sake of argument. Let's assume that that's true. Jay Sekulow, during the defense presentation on Saturday, blew that out of the water, didn't he? When he went through the other instances in which foreign aid has been put on hold by this president.
Manager Crow said this: "What's most interesting to me about this is that President Trump was only interested in Ukraine aid." His words, nobody else. The U.S. provides aids to dozens of countries around the world, lots of partners and allies. He didn't ask about any of them, just Ukraine. That is what Manager Crow said. Here's what actually happened. President Trump has placed holds on aid a number of times. It would just take basic due diligence to figure this out. In September 2019, the administration announced that it was withholding over $100 million in aid to Afghanistan over concerns about government corruption. In August 2019, President Trump announced that the administration and Seoul were in talks to substantially increase South Korea's share, burden sharing, of the expenses of U.S. military aid support for South Korea. In June, President Trump cut or paused over $550 million in foreign aid to El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala because those countries were not fairly sharing the burdens of preventing mass migration to the United States. In June, the administration temporarily paused $105 million in aid to Lebanon. The administration lifted that hold in December, with one official explaining that the administration continually reviews and thoroughly evaluates the effectiveness of all United States foreign assistance to ensure that funds go towards activities that further U.S. foreign policy and also further our national security interest, like any administration would. In September 2018, the administration canceled the $300 million in military aid to Pakistan because it was not meeting its counterterrorism obligations.
So, with all due respect, Representative Jason Crow, Ukraine is not the only issue. And burden sharing was specifically mentioned in the call with Zelensky and Trump, with both gentlemen agreeing on the need for more burden sharing with respect to Ukrainian military aid, meaning Europe needed to step up. And this is also a pattern that we see repeat itself through other examples of U.S. foreign aid. So I'm sorry, what's the bombshell you have with Bolton exactly? For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Lieutenant Colonel Jim Carafano, Vice President of the Catherine and Shelby Cullum Davis Institute for International Studies at the Heritage Foundation and author of books including Wiki at War and Private Sector Public Wars. Jim, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, good to be with you.
I know you don't do politics, you do policy. This is policy. So do you see a bombshell here with respect to the termination and nomination of ambassadors, or with respect to putting holds on foreign aid for reasons as Jay Sekulow outlined?
No, of course not. I think everybody's moved off that now. They're now on what may or may not be in Bolton's book, but one is we don't actually know what's in the book, and matter of fact, there is even now disputes between officials speaking for Bolton and the articles in the New York Times. And the other thing is, again, I think it gets to the question of relevance. I mean, the claim against the president is that for a political purpose, to get dirt on his political enemies, he withheld aid. Not even Bolton, in his comments, has, and no official has ever stated that they have evidence or they can attest that occurred. That's never happened.
But don't you think this new excerpt from his book would convince 4 Republican senators to now want to have witnesses?
Well, I mean, I think you do kind of get back to the kind of nuclear moment, because the Republicans would also insist on a number of other witnesses, which Democrats don't want to bring into it. So that kind of opens a Pandora's box. I'm not even sure that this would happen. Look, I know John Bolton. He's been a good friend for many years. I believe if he had information that was material to the case at hand, that he would have gone to the House and insisted on testifying, and he never did that.
Yeah, I mean, look, we had John Bolton on this show many times before he was elevated to National Security Advisor, and I like him too. He's always a great guest. I'm not here to dump on John Bolton, regardless of the curious timing of this book excerpt release, but and he's more interventionist than I am, but those are just disagreements. So he's not a rhino for doing this, and all these hysterics from Never Trumpers we've heard from. Oh, now you're going to go after John Bolton because he's not flying information. No, not at all, not at all. But as I said at the outset, take what is being reported about this book excerpt at face value. You still have nothing. You have nothing with respect to the standard of removing a president from office.
Well, and I think that goes back. If you listen to what John has said in the past, he said, "I'd be happy to testify." He's never said the words, "I have information that is material to the outcome of this case." He's never said those words.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think that's a big difference. He may say, "I have stuff that makes the president look bad. I don't like the president. I mean, I like some of his policies on this stuff," but he's never said that I have information of criminal conduct, and I would be happy to put that in public if people ask me. Right. Never said that.
Well, in recent days, some White House officials have described Bolton as a disgruntled former employee, and they said that he took notes that he should have left behind when he departed the administration. Do you buy that? That he secretly confiscated?
Well, I mean, of course he's disgruntled. That's a big secret. I mean, he left over major policy disputes with the president. But again, he left over major policy disputes with the president. He didn't say, "I am leaving office because the president has committed criminal acts and therefore I feel I can no longer serve him." He said, "I left because I disagree with how the president's running foreign policy."
Yeah. Something else, Mark Penn, former Clintonista, writing in The Hill last week, thought this was really interesting, talking about how impeachment impacts policies in ways you can't always predict, deleterious ways when you have an impeachment gambit that he argued was illegitimate going after Clinton 20 years ago, going after Trump today. He's opposed to both. And he talked about, because he was in the Clinton White House at the time, he gets a phone call from President Clinton, and the conversation is about whether to authorize a strike based on intelligence against someone named Osama bin Laden, 1998. And the conversation, in part, between Clinton and Penn, as he recounts it, was, if I do this, people are going to think it's just political to try and change the narrative away from impeachment, because he was going through his impeachment proceeding at the time. And ultimately, the decision was made to take the shot, and they did take the shot, and unfortunately they missed. Otherwise, perhaps 9/11 doesn't happen. But the bottom line is thinking about that calculus, and then this was applied to Trump with respect to the strike against Soleimani too. It's like, oh, this is wag the dog, and Clinton was worried it was going to be wag the dog back in '98. And so, do you want that conversation to be directing national or impacting national security policy with respect to the president of the United States? So you want to think, maybe I should hesitate here because it could be perceived this way, even though this is the right thing to do in terms of America's security interests?
Well, first of all, presidents, I think, are faced with that every day, that, well, you're just doing this for politics. So I'm not sure there's anything new there. And then I think you have to put it in context of the president. I personally found Bill Clinton a very indecisive president on foreign policy matters, and very much prone to second-guessing himself. I don't think that's Trump at all. I think Trump is more decisive. And I also think Trump's in a stronger place. I think Clinton was politically weakened by impeachment. I don't think Trump is weakened by impeachment. If anything, I think his hand is strengthened. Again, it's not partisan, it's not political. Just look at the polling numbers. His polling numbers are strong or solid, or if anything, improving. So there's nothing that leads me to believe that this administration is really significantly hamstrung in terms of how it deals with the world because of the threat of impeachment. Distracted, it's there. I mean, it does, suck time out of the room because you have to deal with this stuff. But I think that's different from essentially being risk averse because you're under a microscope.
I wanted to switch gears and get your take on the coronavirus matter, and particularly this piece in the Washington Times on Friday that that sort of ties the possibility of the coronavirus was spread via the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which is a virus research laboratory in the town in which this virus apparently originated. And the question that's being raised is, was this something that escaped as part of some germ warfare program that the Chinese have underway?
Well, I'd say on the surface that's unlikely for a couple of reasons. First of all, if it's a warfare germ, it's not a very effective one in terms of sickening and killing people. So it's not like you're unleashing really a killing pathogen there. The second is there are lots of alternative explanations of how the virus erupted that just are plausible. So it's an interesting conspiracy theory, but as far as I know, it's a theory without any facts. I mean, you can connect all the dots you want if you just pick which dots you want to connect. So, like many, this disease will be highly studied. There may be some evidence that people will come up with if there was some kind of gene manipulation or something like that. But we'll have to wait for facts. So far, I'd say it's just kind of somebody's kind of theory.
Okay. Do you think although that our American hospitals are ready for something like this?
I this isn't really. I'm going to be overly sanguine about this, but right now, this isn't presenting something as this is going to be a real global health challenge. It's a serious health challenge for China, and it would be great to kind of keep it out of other countries. But here's why right now it's not really terrifying. One is the rate of lethality that we know is not really all that high for the number of people infected. People die from viruses all the time, so that's one. Maybe unless the Chinese aren't reporting correctly or we haven't seen anything. The other thing is in order to get sick, apparently you have to be in close proximity to somebody who's not just shedding virus, but is really ill. So it's not you're going to walk by and touch a kitchen counter and you get this thing. So it doesn't transmit very easily. So it is much more containable with something called social distancing, right? People are obviously affected. So it does appear, what we don't know is if people are getting people sick when they're not exhibiting it, they're not coughing and spitting and everything else. That would be more troubling. But right now, it's just not exhibiting the kind of characteristics of something that's going to be a real serious global health pandemic.
Well, that's good news, Jim, because right now Amy is doing the show in one of those spacesuits from E.T. So she.
Well, I did order, and I've been gotten a lot of text messages about the masks that I ordered, and I ordered the N95.
Yeah, I'm not. I think the masks are kind of a joke, but I don't think there's a lot of very strong. Again,
I'd rather
unlikely.
be safe than sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
But unlikely
fully
to make
wrapped.
a difference in kind of casual contact. Look, my advice always is if you see somebody on the subway and they're sitting there and their eyes are red and they're sniffling and coughing and snorting, I would not sit next to them. But that's just me.
Yeah, that's sound advice. Yes, Lieutenant Colonel Jim Carafano's healthy living advice. We appreciate that. Vice President of the Catherine Shelby Cullum Davis Institute for International Studies at the Heritage Foundation. Jim, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And he joined us on our